Hang on.
Can you hear me now? Yes, we good? Oh man, all right, cool. You know what it is? It's weird. I turned the volume all the way up and it muted me. So go figure. Anyway, what I was saying, guys, is real quick. I want to give you like the 30-second background of why I'm here on this call, and it's important because our past determines our future, right? In the sense that, and I know some people would say, well, that's not true, but it is. Your past is who you are and it's where you come from. Now, what you do with that is obviously completely up to you. But in my world, I got a divorce in 2007, and I ran out and got my real estate license in New Jersey and Pennsylvania because I live on the border. And and I started as an agent, and I did short sales heavily for 2 years because that's when the market crashed. And I became very good as an agent doing short sales. And I quickly realized that the investor that I was working with, or investors, were making like 10 times the money that I was making, right? Literally. So I'd get a commission check for a listing for 3, 4 grand, and they would flip the house in the same day and make 30, 40 grand. And I started realizing, wow, man, I'm like on the wrong side of the fence here. I got to learn how to be that guy, right? That girl. And I went on all these guru webinars, and I know none of you have been on them, right? You get the email, you click the link, you watch the recording, and there's the big old orange button, add to cart. And I bought a ton of that stuff. And I finally, took me a little while. I realized, well, why don't I stick with short sales? And I bought a course and I went into a coaching program, and I became friends with the guy who ran it. And within a year, I was their number one student. I had 100 deals in the pipeline, and I was flipping 5, 10 houses a month. And then all of a sudden, Bank of America, who was called Countrywide back in the day, made a change. They said, hey, Mr. or Mrs. Investor, you can buy this short sale, but you can't resell it for 30 days. And a lot of you, that's called a resale restriction. A lot of you are probably familiar with that. They still exist today. And it was going to shut me down. So I was at a pivotal point in my life where I'm like, what do I do? I lost everything in the divorce. I lost my house. I lost my money. I lost my cars. I lost my pride. I lost my children, and lost them in the sense that I got joint custody and I wasn't able to be with them every day. But point is, I built myself back. I was starting to achieve success again, and it was about to be taken away from me. And so I partnered up with the number one attorney in the country, Jeffrey Watson. We created a course. Let me back up. We created a system to keep me in business, and it worked so well that he got the idea. He's like, listen, why don't we teach this to everybody around the country? And I said, well, how do we do that? Well, let's just make some videos and give them all of our paperwork. And I said, you mean like create a course, like a guru? He said, yeah, something like that. So we did that, and it ended up going on in 2011 to be the number one selling short sale course in the country. We released a 2.0. Next thing I knew, people were asking me to coach them, and I started a coaching program. And we sold 3,000 copies of the product. I started speaking on stages around the country. I've coached hundreds of people, and everything was going great. Now we're all affiliates, right? You're all on this call. You're interested in marketing specifically the education of Renatus. So, in the world of affiliate marketing, you don't buy it in Macy's. You don't go to Walmart. I mean, it's generally sold, online for the most part, at least in the guru world. So I had all these people I was promoting this product, that product, this product. And I kind of had to because they promoted me, right? And it was like, all right, well, you promoted me, I promote you, and that's cool. But at the end of the day, I got tired of it and I did it for years. And then short sales, as the economy and value started coming back, and I should say equity started coming back, short sales went away. I mean, in most areas of the country. Now, fortunately for me, in the Northeast, they didn't go away. The Northeast, the New Jersey, Maryland, Delaware, Pennsylvania is still leading the nation in foreclosures. But nationwide, people really didn't have a reason for my product anymore. People really didn't want to coach with me like they did because if there's no short sales in your area, what the hell are you going to talk to me for, right? So I kind of was at a crossroads, and it's funny because when I was first introduced to this whole organization, this community, this whole concept of what we're all a part of, I wanted no parts of it because I didn't even look into it. Mark Whittington sent me a bunch of emails, sent me like 7 links in an email, which is obviously too much and overload. And I didn't even look at any of them. I just put it in a folder. 7 months later, I went back and I opened up the email because I was looking for a different phone number or something in the folder I created for him. And I just started watching the videos, and I watched them all, guys. And I cleared my calendar and I watched them all, and I called them up and I said, look, I don't like this guy, Scott Rowe. I think he's arrogant. I think he's a jerk, but I like what he's saying. So can you get him on the phone? And he got him on the phone and we spoke. And I just got, I pretty much, it's funny because I told Mark, I said, Mark, I said, look, I kind of get the idea. And I didn't see the comp plan, mind you. That's the one thing I didn't see. I said, but here's the deal. I said, so let me get this straight. You got 1, 4, and $10,000 commission on a 2, 8, and $20,000 product. So basically, I'm getting half. He said, yeah. I said, do I have to buy it? Because if I have to buy it, I'm not in. I don't need education. I've done over 1,000 deals. Do you know who I am? All that good stuff, right? Too cool for school. And he's like, no, you don't have to buy it. But tell you what, why don't you watch the compensation plan before you make a decision? and then you can kind of go from there. So I said, all right, we'll send it over. And I guess about 10 minutes into it, I was like, son of a bitch, I'm dropping 20 grand. Here we go. I'm dropping $20,000 because I knew I'm like, I'm not letting him get all that money, right? There's no way I'm giving him all that money. And I understood the comp plan. And Scott talks all the time about when you talk to salespeople, when you talk to people who are used to working for any type of a commission structure, guys, this comp plan is second to none. I mean, yes, there's the certification, or as we now call qualification process, but it's great. It's really, really powerful. And I understood that, right? And I got that. So I got the education. I got my IMA number, and I talked to a bunch of people, and I thought I was going to be the overnight success and former guru and all 50,000 person email list. And I started sending emails and just emails and emails and emails, and nothing happened. Nobody wanted to just like I didn't open the email. I wasn't there was no personal touch. I wasn't calling people. I wasn't, being a human being with them. I was just thinking like before. I could blast an email, people would click the link, and Brian Mara makes money. And I learned real quick and was humbled. That's not exactly the case with this type of a business. And I kind of got frustrated. I didn't kind of. I got frustrated. I'm thinking, man, this thing sucks. This isn't going to work. Da, da, da. Now, mind you, I in about a month, I mean, through friends and people I knew, I sold them, and I got 5-star certified in about a month and a half, whatever, 30 some days, whatever. But I was like, well, that's cool and all, but I don't think I really want to continue doing this. And I just kind of put it on the back burner. And then Scott came out to Philadelphia last April, so 13 months ago. And afterwards, we went out for a bite to eat and we sat down. And I pretty much said, Scott, I don't know what's up here, man. I've been running these hotel meetings. I started in May. Here we are in October. So it's been like 5 months, and it's just not working, man. It's I don't really know what I'm going to be doing here because I have to back up. The month prior, I was at my house in Italy, and I was doing some soul searching over there and thinking, when I get back to the States, am I going to keep doing this? Am I going to keep running these meetings? Am I going to keep messing around with this Renatus thing? Because I had a group of people, and yeah, there were some people doing some things, but it just wasn't taking off. It just wasn't just clicking, I guess you could say. And I had a long talk with Scott, and we put it together a blueprint. And he said, Brian, you're only meeting once a month. You're running a meeting in a hotel, and people are going to think you're still doing that guru thing. You need to build a community. You need to get an office. And so, long story short, I went out and got a 3,000 square foot office on the border of New Jersey and Pennsylvania, outside of Philly. It's why we call it, Scott created that term, Adelphia. And guys, that was 5 months ago. That was in November 17th, I believe. We held our first meeting, and in the last 5 months, my entire world has changed because I finally built what I've always wanted. It's funny. People talk about, my branding, the investor entourage. Well, when I was in that wilderness, when I was in that place where I didn't quite know who I was and what I was going to do, and do I create a new product, and do I do this, do I do that, do I just go back to full time investing? I've always invested, but when you're an affiliate and you're running a full time business marketing, I always had a handful of deals, but I wasn't 100 deals by any means in the pipeline because you don't have time for that, right? And a lot of you may have noticed that too, that you want to be more active in real estate. You want to be, maybe you haven't even gotten started yet, but you're focused so much on the marketing of this business and going on the morning calls and going to the meetings and plugging in, that maybe your real estate business isn't quite where it needs to be. And I had a talk with Scott right before I opened up this office, and I said, Scott, I said, I've been working so hard running all these hotel meetings. I'm not coaching anymore. I'm not, I got a handful of deals, and as you guys know, they're short sales, so they take forever to close. And I said, I'm kind of running out of money, dude. I'm going broke. Like, I don't know if I can keep doing this. And that was like 5 months ago. And it was just a weird point in my life. And I said, God, I got to do something and get in this office. What happened, guys, in putting an office together, and for all of you who have an office to plug people into, the community, right? The community is the gold. It's the gold of what we do, because let me tell you something. Nobody cares about the education. We all know it's great, but they don't know it's great. And to them, it's just another $2, $8, or $20,000 purchase. So until you can get into their heart, until you can get into their mind and let them see exactly what it is you're a part of and what you're trying to share with them, it's not going to work, because now you're just selling them. And for me, because of my sales background, because of the marketing, because of all the guru stuff, that was really hard for me to make that switch, to get it from my head to my heart. And it finally happened, and I'm getting back to the name Investor Entourage. I created that blog. I didn't know what I was going to do. And I love the word investor entourage. What's an entourage? It's a group of people. It's a crew. It's a clique. It's a team, man. And I could see this thing growing nationwide, but I had nothing to grow. I had no product. I'd never heard of Renatus. I didn't know what it was. I just built this site. It was a blank template, and all I had was a logo and a name. And 6 months later, this was introduced into my life. Now, call it fate, the hand of God, whatever you want to call it, destiny. Everything fell into place. Everything fell into place. But the key thing that I think that what I wanted to share with you today, yeah, I have some specific things I'm going to talk to you about before that have really helped as far as growth, some tangible things. But I think the most important thing in my life, and one of the things that I've really focused on heavily, specifically for the last 5, 6 months, is getting inside of myself. Because you're this is a weird business, man. You have to attract people, and people aren't going to be attracted necessarily to the quality of the education. They're going to be attracted to you. They're going to be attracted to you, to the people you represent, to your community, the people they see. It's not a logical thing. As much as you may think it is, well, it makes sense. I mean, here's education. It's great. We cover all these topics. We do property tours. We do this. And that is great. But if you don't learn how to connect with people, nothing's going to happen. So I've been immersing myself in self development, really trying to become the best version of me that I can be, over this last 5, 6 months as I opened up the office. And I believe that's the reason for, the growth I've seen. And I just want to share a few things with you. So really knowing who you are, your identity, what Gary V, who, by the way, if you ever hear Gary Vaynerchuk, I would highly suggest you YouTube that guy. Goes by Gary V, Gary Vaynerchuk. He's a great guy. He's a marketer and he's got a filthy mouth like me, but but he just says how it is, man. And I think it's I really like listening to him because he just really makes me think. But just a little tip for you, Gary Vaynerchuk, Gary V, look him up on YouTube. But he talks a lot about self awareness, right? And what is self awareness? It's knowing who you are. It's knowing what you want to do because guys, we're programmed, we're programmed since birth, and we just find ourselves in these ruts. And you could wake up and find yourself like the Quack Brothers, maybe you're 20 some years old, or maybe you're in your 30s or 40s or 50s, and you almost got to sometimes stop and say, wow, where did my life go? Like I'm 42 years old and I'm thinking, I don't feel 42. I don't know. I still feel like I'm in my 20s, and your life goes by because you get busy just doing life. You have your kids, you have your business, your job, whatever you're doing. And now you got this crazy thing that comes in your life. And how do you fit it in? And I've determined that for me, really understanding that, it all starts in your own head, and the most powerful tool that you have, every one of you listening to this, is your mind. And that's unfortunately something that none of us stop and think about because we are busy. We're paying bills, we're doing this. But if you really think about it, man, you live with yourself and your own thoughts 24/7. The person that influences you the most on a daily basis is you. And what are you telling yourself? Are you carrying around these things that your parents told you, that your grandparents, your siblings, your teachers who maybe gave you bad advice? What is your self image? What are the thoughts? Because there's a visual when you're talking, right? Picture these words; they go right from your mouth right to your ear, and that's just a few inches. You program yourself more than anybody. And the biggest problem that I had with myself is carrying these things around that I thought I got rid of years ago, just these self-limiting beliefs and thinking back to like my dad and telling me things like, horrible things like, oh, because I guess I had a bad attitude as a kid and I got in a lot of trouble and telling me you're never gonna have any friends and nobody's gonna like you. And I carried that shit for years, man. And I thought I got rid of it and I thought I was a likable person and I always seemed to get along with people, but in the back of my mind, I realized by doing some reading and some really soul searching that like I guess I always was trying to like overcome that image that nobody's gonna like you, Brian. And I realized that like I was trying to fight that so hard and become sometimes I was wearing these masks and trying to be like everything to everybody. And the one thing I realized, guys, is that when I was able to become true to myself, right? And just be who I am, I understand not everybody's gonna like me, but I also learned that that's okay. And I think that in society, and you have your family face, and maybe you go to church, your church face, and and then you're with your buddies, and you're having your drinks, and you got you are who you are with them, and then of course you're with your children. You got to be dad, you got to be mom. But if you can just learn to have a consistency in who you are and just be who you are, I believe firmly that most people are good. I believe that firmly at the core of people, at their heart, in their soul, that most people are good people. But I think that a lot of times that we're just trying to wear these masks and we're trying to, I don't know, conform. And the reality is, guys, people are going to love you for who you are, right? And that was really big for me. And so what this all means and why it ties into the business is because we're trying to influence people, right? We're trying to let people know how great it is of what we're doing, but if you can come across sincerely and not like you're trying to sell somebody, that's what's going to make people react to you. So you got to ask yourself, who are you, right? And I can guarantee you that you probably don't know who you are, because I didn't either. I really didn't know who I was. Like I said, you blink your eyes and 42 years go by. But for me, once I understood this concept and this business and what we have our hands on and how you can truly impact people's lives, it's not about teaching them how to flip a house. It's not about teaching them how to do a wholesale deal, right? Or do that buy and hold. Yeah, that's all the components of it, but it's what's in them. What is that flipping of that house going to do for them, you know? Is that 20, 30, 40 grand going to let them pay off their credit cards? And if they could do two a year, could it get their wife home to actually raise their kids, which is something that their dream is? Or maybe they quit their job and they could be a full-time real estate investor and a full-time mommy and daddy. And just really learning to figure out what drives people, and by asking the right questions and then presenting the education, the community, the beautiful thing that we have, and showing them how this is going to be a solution to what they want. It's To me, that's the biggest thing that you can do, guys, because most people, they do know what they want, but they don't think about it because they're just too busy, right? And like Tony Robbins says, you don't get what you want. Look, we all want to lose weight, right? In theory, right? We all want more money. We all want to be out of debt and debt free and have this wonderful life and travel, but you don't get what you want. You get what you have to have. What you have to have. What is it inside of you that you have to have? When I was 18 and I was diagnosed with stage 4 terminal cancer and I was fighting for my life in Jefferson Hospital in Philadelphia, it wasn't a want to get better. I had to get better or I was dead. There was no coming back. I I remember a story. It's funny. So I was going through this one major operation. And they basically cut me from the bottom of my rib cage all the way down to my pelvis. They took all my organs out of me, put them on the table next to me, and they started strategically removing all my lymph nodes from my entire midsection because they were full of cancer. And they told my parents that I was going to be in the hospital for 6 weeks, and I was going to be going through extreme recovery and physical therapy and this, and there was even a chance I might not make it. And if they, nick the kidney by trying to remove the lymph nodes, I may lose a kidney, and all these other things. I could actually, because they have to take them off the spinal cord, I could actually also be paralyzed. And I was going under anesthesia, thinking, okay, well, this is what they're telling me, but no, I made a decision that I was going to get out of there, and I said I'm going to be home with my family in 2 weeks to have dinner, to have Thanksgiving dinner, because it was 2 weeks before Thanksgiving. And I pictured in my mind, I pictured, watching the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade in my hospital and having my mom and dad come and pick me up. And I told that to the doctor, the surgeon, and he didn't laugh, but he shook his head in a kind of like, poor kid, he doesn't get it. And to me, that was all the motivation that I needed. When I don't know, guys, I'm the kind of person, when someone told me or tells me you can't do it, now I feel I got to prove it to you. Now I feel it's like, okay, you know what? Now you watch and see. So long story short, I woke up and I remember, you know, dragging myself around because I had to walk. And after 3 days, I got out of bed and hanging on the IV pole. Those metal poles where they hang the IV bag, and I got all these tubes in me. And I'm walking down the hallway trying to get myself walking because one of the requirements to leave is I had to walk, and feeling the blood and everything else running out of me because of the staples that were holding me together, all my midsection. And I just kept going through the pain, through anything, because I had a vision. I had a vision of that Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade and going home to eat with my family. I was supposed to, I'll never forget the morning I left, I was supposed to, like, get all my functions back and be able to urinate a certain amount, and I wasn't able to. And I had to fill up a container. And so I took apple juice and water and I mixed it and I poured it in there and I said, "Look, I did it." Well, I didn't. Maybe it wasn't the smartest thing, but I'll tell you one thing. I knew one thing. I was going home. And as I laid there that morning and I was watching the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade, and I saw my mom walk through the door, um, it it changed my life. And I realized as a young man that I could do anything. And no matter what I went through the rest of my life, I knew that I could hang on to that memory, and it would carry me through no matter what. So I guess I'm just trying to tell you all that because about a year ago, I was lost. I was scared. I was alone. I didn't have purpose once again. And I didn't know what I was going to do. And I didn't know those videos sitting in that email would change my life. I didn't know that it would allow me to speak to all of you today and change lives around the country, because my passion, it's not about flipping houses. It's not about making money. I'm making a lot of money now, guys. I'm making great money with Renatus. I made almost 40 grand in the last 2 months on the affiliate side. I'm so proud of that. And I've been paid net almost just under $120,000 in the last year. And on the UGA payments coming, that's another 140 some. I've kind of earned like a $250,000 in the last year. So the money's there now. And the money, my real estate business is booming. I'm working on some awesome things with high equity pre foreclosures and all this stuff. So the money's back, but the money's back because I'm back, because I found myself again, and I found a true purpose and a calling that I believe that God is directing my steps, and then I'm just trying to be the best version of me that I can be. And that's kind of my message to you, and that's what I want to share with you. That until you can get to that point, it's not about coming on these calls. And sometimes I'm sure so many of you are like, do I really want to go on that impact today? Do I really want to go on Thursday night? Do I really want to go to the next Super Saturday? And the answer is no, you probably don't. But you got to keep going. You got to tie that knot in the end of the rope, man, and hang on until you can find what it is that's going to move you to tears. Because when you can find it, nothing can stop you. Nothing will stop you. And then it becomes easy. I got a quote on my wall. If you do what is easy, life will be hard. But if you do what is hard, life will be easy. And these are some of the things that most people don't think about. You have to become a superhuman. You have to become a superhero, right? You need to learn how to think like the average person doesn't think, guys. The average person is they're focused on the reality shows and TV and who won what sports game in the draft, and they're just missing it, and their life is going by. But I believe that every one of you on this call, every one of you are in the offices around the country, the brand new people, the experienced people, you're different. You're different because you're here, or maybe you're hearing this on a recording, but that alone sets you apart. And just don't forget that, don't forget that. But you got to define and really talking again about self-awareness, what drives you, and do you even know? You may need to spend some quiet time, reflection, prayer, call it what you want, but just spend some quiet time with yourself and get to know what's going to move you to action. I went out to Utah, and there was this thing called Ripwater, and Garrett Gunderson put on a panel of speakers, kind of like a TED Talk. It was pretty cool, and it was a very last minute decision. And I kind of figured, well, I'm going to go there, and I went there on a Wednesday night, and then I flew in, as you guys, Chicago guys know. I figured, well, shit, I'm already out there, and I got to stop saying that. I'm sorry. No, I'm not sorry. Sorry, not sorry. That's me. Anyway, I went to Chicago and saw you guys, and then on Friday I went to Italy. But I learned so much from these speakers, because my mind was in the right place, and I would just like taking these thoughts and these concepts, and I want to share some of that with you. Contradictions in your premises will break you. And this guy on stage, and I'm sorry I can't remember his name, but imagine this. Imagine standing up, and he put his arms out left and right, stretched them out like a T, right? And he kind of was doing like a tug of war. He was going to the left and he was going to the right. And what he was trying to say is that if you have areas of your life that are in conflict, if you are being pulled one way to make money, but you have a true premise, right? An idea in your mind that maybe you're even holding subconsciously that money is evil, or that maybe you don't deserve it, or whatever you were programmed, your premise on a subconscious level is going to be pulling you from that. You're going to have that tug of war. And then he put his arms together. So, imagine a T, and then pulling them straight in front of him, putting them out. He says, and until you can align your premises in your life, you're never going to have success, and you will always struggle. And that was a lot for me too. I heard, again, I love my father, but he was very negative, and very negative growing up, and always, you ever know those people, they would always tell you why things couldn't work and why things wouldn't happen. Well, that's what I was programmed with. And I don't, I guess you don't realize you're programming because you're a kid, right? You don't know. You grow up where you grow up. We don't choose our neighborhood, how much money we have, the family we're born into. We don't choose what color we are. You're just there, man. Welcome to the world. Good luck, you know. And these premises, these core foundational ideas of who we are, they were not consciously created by you. You were programmed like a computer, guys. You were programmed. And the key, what do you do about it? What to do? You need to analyze your premises. You need to look at the areas of your life. I'm talking about your health and your fitness, the current state of your body. I'm talking about your finances, your relationships, and you need to break them down into categories and realize that you can reprogram yourself, and you need to choose in each of these areas of your life. This is what I'm no longer willing to tolerate. I'm going to change this. and I'm drinking too much and I need to slow it down, or I need to quit drinking or smoking, or I need to start working out and eating better, right? Or whatever the case may be, or I'm finally ready to get out of debt. And again, there's categories of your life. There's your personal, your health, your fitness, there's your relationships, and then there's your money. And you can choose that, right? But just know that these premises are controlling your life. It's your thoughts, your actions, your habits, right? Here's the thing. It's kind of like your thoughts create your actions, right? You think something first before you do it. We all do. Your actions then create your habits. Well, your habits is what creates your character. That's who you are, right? Which then, of course, you could look at your addictions that affects your moods, your manner, your behavior. And until you can get that right, and I'm not saying being perfect, my God, I'm the furthest thing from perfect out there, man. But until you can start to consciously work on this on a daily basis, and here's the thing, you are setting yourself apart from 99% of people out there. Scott said it yesterday, there are 3,000 people remaining on his team after the big flush, after the IMA onlys decided not to stick around, which he called it, right? And by the way, on a side note, I love Scott Rowe. I didn't like him at all. And maybe some of you on this call may be thinking he's arrogant and he's this, but let me tell you something. He's a great man. He's changed my life, and he's full of wisdom. And he's really, really, really good at what he does. And he's a very good friend of mine now. And I'm proud to call somebody like that my friend. And it just goes to show you that I had a lot of growing to do myself when I first watched his video, right? So anyway, moving on. Oh man, I'm slow on my slides. I'm running out of time. So Ripwater, I talked about that. Okay, so this is cool. There was a guy, his name was Dr. Chris Zino, and he had a concept, guys. He talked about being a hero versus living your secret identity. He said every one of us, there's a hero inside. And it kind of meant a lot to me and almost brought a tear to my eye, because when I was sick and I was going through chemotherapy and I was bald and losing everything and sick and didn't know if I was going to make it, that's about the time that song Hero came out by Mariah Carey. I don't know if you guys remember that song, but my mom, kind of dedicated that song to me, and, you know, played that for me. And I used to listen to that song when I was sick, and it really, it changed my life, and it really helped me get me through. But it's funny, you talk about a hero, and when I was young, you guys remember that show? Here I'm going to date myself now for younger people, but The Greatest American Hero, goofy show, right? The guy couldn't fly straight, got the red outfit from the aliens and all that. Remember that show, Greatest American Hero? Anyway, from the 80s. And basically, when I was 7 years old, I was going to Catholic school, so we had to wear a uniform. And my mom made me the uniform. We didn't really have any money growing up, so I don't even think they sold a uniform, the costume, I guess you could say, for him. But she kind of got me like these red, like, long johns, the long underwear, and the shirt, and drew a little logo on for me and made me a little makeshift cape, because we didn't have any money growing up, guys. And I would wear that under my school uniform. I would literally wear it. And at home, when I would come home, I would take off my school uniform and put my play clothes on. But I would always have that costume, my superhero outfit, on underneath. I don't know that I've ever shared this publicly, but it's kind of a funny story. So when I would watch the show at night, and there was no DVRs back then, so you'd have to actually be there to watch it. When he would get changed, I would get changed. And my mom would laugh, and she thought it was the cutest thing. So he'd be changing his clothes, and I'd be changing mine, and he'd put his clothes back on, I'd put mine. So the whole point of this guy's talk is we all are a hero inside. They're all something that we were called to do. We all have a potential, something we were created for by God to do. We weren't just put on this earth to just exist and just pay the bills and get up and go home and thank God it's Friday, and oh, now it's happy hour, and here's the weekend. Oh God, tomorrow's Monday, and you get the Sunday night blues, right? We were all created for greatness. The unfortunate part is that most people will go to their grave and never realize what that greatness was and never bring it out. And describe it is, hello, am I back? Am I back? All right, cool. I don't know what happened. I swear I didn't hit mute. Maybe somebody hit it. I didn't do it. Anyway, what I was saying, guys, about the whole secret identity thing is that it's like, you the one thing that he said is that, again, we're living a secret identity. We become Clark Kent, right? Because that's who society tells us we need to be. But there's that hero inside of you who you need to be, and unfortunately, it's suppressed. And the scary thing is, and it really, it's one of those speeches where, man, it was like somebody took a shovel and just smacked me right in the mouth. I was like, wow, like I've been living that secret identity. I have been conforming and trying to be this and that, and kind of what I was talking about before. And that hero that's inside of me, that kid that was dying of cancer, that drive that needs to come out, and I need to be that hero. I need to be that hero for myself, for my kids, for everybody that I can change their life, right? And he said something really powerful. He said the enemy of the hero is not the villain, it's the secret identity that you have become. And that, to me, guys, I hope some of you understand that, and then that hits you like it hit me, because it was the most powerful thing I could have heard, and it was amazing. And he said one other thing. He said depression is the opposite of expression. And so being able to truly express yourself, who you are, it's the most liberating thing in the world, right? And that really, really impacted me. I hope some of you got something from that. Um, here's a key. You don't build a business, you build people, and then people build the business. We are in a very, very unique situation with this Renatus community, with this family, right? And really learning, guys, how to help people. It starts with your ability to influence them. You need to learn how to become a person of influence. And one of the biggest ways to do that is, do you listen? Do you really listen when people talk? And I'm guilty of this. We're all busy, right? Seems like the whole world has ADHD, and they say that the average American has the attention span of less than a goldfish. How the hell they figure that out, I don't know. But the point being, it's true, right? You got your Facebook, you got Instagram, you got this, you got that, ding, 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 text messages, Facebook Messenger. And so our attention is constantly being pulled like a dog on a leash and just getting yanked left, right. No wonder why we can't focus on anything anymore. But when someone's talking to you, specifically when you're talking to someone about joining our community, the number one thing you can do is just stop and push everything else out of your mind and listen to what they're saying. Because, guys, people, unfortunately, most people aren't listened to. Most people have no one when they talk that truly listens to them. You know, I read an article a few weeks ago. I forget where I read it, Success Magazine, I think, online. And it said that the biggest problem in our society is loneliness. We've never been more connected. We've never been more plugged in online, Facebook. Oh, we all have friends. Oh, look at me. I have 5,000 friends on Facebook. But we've never, as a society, been more isolated and more alone. And so when you can show somebody that we have this community, when you can show them that they're going to be listened to, that their needs are going to be listened to, that you actually care about them, that's what's going to make them join, guys. That's what's going to make them move heaven and earth to come up with that 20 grand or that 2 grand just to be a part of this. Because the one thing that separates them being able to be a part of our community, sure, you can get your IMA number. But in our case, we run a study group, right? We're modeling Chicago. So we run a weekly study group. I'm very proud to tell you that in 5 months, we have over 50 some people attending our study group live and another 30 some attending remote, because we're trying our best to provide value and make people feel important, and not just saying that as a cliche, truly listening to them and caring about them and saying, listen, we're going to help you. We're going to help you get what you want. And here's the thing. I tell people, one of my first mentors told me, he said, Brian, never forget this. You want to make people feel better after they've left your presence than before they entered it. And it doesn't matter if it's on the phone. It doesn't matter if you're in person. And it doesn't matter if I'm speaking to you on this webinar. My goal, every interaction I have, and I've never forgotten it, is to make people feel better after they've left my presence. And I hope that I'm trying to do that to you, with you guys today. But I want to bring it back to grade school, right? Now, I know in our politically correct world and how crazy things have gotten, I guess you can't even play dodgeball anymore. Remember that? It's where you take the big, red rubber ball and you just smash somebody in the head with it and try and knock them down on the playground. Was that awesome or what? You can't play that anymore, right? God forbid somebody gets hurt. But here's the point. You ever remember where they would line people up and they would have two groups of people? All right, we're going to divide you up into two teams. And then they pick two captains, and you're the blue captain and you're the red captain. And what do? They start picking their teams. Well, I'll take John, I'll take Mary, I'll take Bob, and I'll take him. You never, I don't know about you guys, but I wasn't. Those of you know me, I'm all of about 5'8" on a good day, and I was, growing up, I was all like 4 foot, and I was like the little guy. And let's just say when it came to sports and stuff like that, I wasn't exactly picked first. And I'll never forget that feeling that when you're the last one picked, and it's the most embarrassing, shameful thing when, and you're a kid, you don't want to be picked last, and everybody's looking at you, oh, there, pick him last. I don't want him on my team. But here's the thing, and I think the takeaway from that and what we have is that we have the ability in our community that nobody will get picked last. And every single person that you talk to, you let them know that you're picking them first, right? Hey, I'm hand picking my team. I'm building an organization and I want you on my team. And I'm telling you, on a subconscious level, people want to be picked. Nobody wants to be left out. And it's just, I don't know, it's just a different mindset. It's just looking at things differently. And part of that, guys, and I got to speed up, is, reading. Reading. I've been reading an hour a day for the last 5 months, and here are my top 4 books that I would recommend to every one of you. Most of you know, as Scott Rowe has been talking about forever, which I've read 4 times, is Pitch Anything by Orrin Claff. Excellent, excellent book on frame control, the crocodile brain, and what makes people take action. Once you understand the human brain and psychology and just what makes people decide, it's going to be easier for you to talk to them and actually communicate with them when you know that your words are being received. Okay. So The Miracle Morning by Hal Elrod is a wonderful book. I've been doing that. I've been getting up routinely at 4 a.m. every day. Not every day, I try every day, but hey, sometimes we all sleep in and forget to plug your phone in like this morning and you oversleep, but that's life. But having that time in the morning to plan your day, to spend quiet time, to pray if that's of your nature, and to really chart that quiet time in the morning, man, it's powerful. Work out, right? Do a little exercise, get your heart running. It's really, really cool. Think and Grow Rich is a book that I read in the hospital when I was going through cancer. And I read it cover to cover twice, and I took notes, and it changed my life, by Napoleon Hill, of course. And then the old classic, How to Win Friends and Influence People. It's old, right? And it's a lot of people have been talking about it, but I guarantee there's 281 people, 282 people on this call. Some of you have not read How to Win Friends and Influence People. And if you're not into reading, get the audiobook, right? But please read it. And it's really going to help you with specifically growing this type of a business, okay? Now, specifically, let's talk some specifics. The 4 things that seem to work the best right now, today, as far as bringing people to a meeting in my business, in the offshoots that we're opening up around the country in Florida and Nashville and everywhere else, is Bandit Signs. I'll tell you what, guys, I was the biggest skeptic of Bandit Signs because I didn't think they worked. I running my short sale business, I never messed with Bandit Signs. I didn't have to, because the reality is every short sale has to be listed with a real estate agent. So I figured out early on, well, wait a minute, if I just network and really connect myself with agents, by default, they're going to get listings that are short sales. And then if I say, hey, I'll do all the work for you with the bank, you never have to talk to bank and I'll never touch your commission, they were throwing them at me and frankly still do. So I didn't, when I would see those signs, we buy houses, things like that, I would say, those things don't work. Nobody calls them. And preparing for Scott to come last April, I said, well, let me give it a shot. And I got the back then Real Estate Investor Seeks Apprentice, which I know we use the word trainee now. And I bought 100 Bandit Signs and I put them all around in the middle of the night. And within 3 days, I got like 80-some phone calls. And being at Nationals and hearing, Mitch Nelson talk about how he was putting out 500 a week, him and his team, and hearing about just they work. For God's sakes, they work, guys. And if you haven't tried them yet, they work. And it's ridiculous. And you got to get your hands dirty and hopping out of traffic and don't get hit by a car and all that. But, they work and people call. And sometimes people put them out and they pick them back up. Well, my mindset is, listen, man, once I put it out, I'm never picking it back up. Either someone's picking it up and throwing it away or some code enforcement guy's going to find it. That's my billboard. I'm never going back out and picking it up. Now, some of you put them out and pick them up, and I get it. But I'm just leaving them out there until they fall down or get taken down, okay? But they work, okay? Number 2, meetup.com. You want, and I don't care if there's 77,000 of them in your city. If you form a new meetup, you create it, and you brand it, and describe the community and what you're doing, it will take on a life of its own. I'm telling you, it's amazing. The amount of people that we get, some of my key leaders on my team came from meetup.com. So I highly want to suggest you look into that. Eventbrite is actually amazing because people seem to actually go to Eventbrite to look for events and networking events, etc., more than meetup.com. But that's a very powerful one. I personally don't have a lot of experience with that, but a lot of people on my team have gotten 5-star certified from Eventbrite. And by the way, you can use that to drive people to locations around the country if you want to work on a national presence, which is really cool with all the great leaders we have around the country and the offices, opening up. But here's the big one. It's the warm market because guys, like Scott's been really talking about every day, trying to pound it home. It's not just about real estate. With the cash recovery parties, everybody you know probably has a mortgage, right? They probably have debt, whether it's credit cards or student loans or the kids' braces or whatever the case may be. People have debt. And another interesting statistic I heard recently is that 83% of the people out there, if they had the choice, would stop doing what they do. They would not wake up today or tomorrow and go and do whatever they do if they had the choice. And being able to just show people how, if nothing else, how to get debt free, how to take that 30-year mortgage using velocity banking and take it down to 7, 8, 9 years, you're going to change their life. You're going to change their life. So just be confident that your uncle, your cousin, your brother, your coworker may have zero interest in flipping houses, but they probably want to get out of debt and they probably want to pay off that mortgage. So don't forget that's a huge, huge market. Okay. The key is with finding people, guys, you got to get in their head. As I mentioned before, you have to understand what's going to make them move, what's going to make them take action. And the only way to get there is to actually ask questions and listen. Listen when they respond because they're going to tell you, right? We have an office now. So I tell people all the time, why did they walk through the door? Or maybe you're using the online system. Why are they watching the video? There's a reason, right? There's a reason that they responded to your ad, to your Craigslist, to your Bandit Sign, to your meetup. They responded because there's a need in their life. And so what you need to do is do not sell the product, guys. You sell the solution. It's not about Renatus. We know how great it is. We know the courses are fantastic. The instructors, that it's Bob Snyder. I mean, the brilliant, wonderful man that he is. We know that. But never forget, they don't. They're just invited to a meeting and they're skeptical and their arms are crossed. Or they're watching a video wondering, is this just some other scam? So if you're focusing on the product and the quality of education and all this stuff that you know is good, you're selling. You're not connecting. You need to focus on the solution. And so I'm very adamant in our live follow-ups and when I'm talking to people on the phone, when I get on a three-way call and somebody on my team sets up a three-way call, I don't start with talking about how great we are in the community and the education. It's all about them, right? It's about, hey, listen, I see that you saw the videos and we're on this call. Let me ask you something. Why did you watch them? What are you looking for? And if you ask people these questions, let me tell you something, guys. As I mentioned before, the biggest problem in our society are people are lonely. People want to be heard. Don't ever forget that. People want to be heard. And if you're one of the few people, maybe the only person in their life that's listening to them, they're going to stick with you. They're going to stick with you because you're filling a need, a human need to be heard, right? Why do you think people get tattoos? And I have a few. Because it's a matter of expression. People want you to know this is who I am. That MacBook, right? The iPhone. People are trying to let you know who they are. People are desperately looking for people to know this is who I am. This is what matters to me. And if you're one of these people, the few, and again, maybe the only person in life that's listening and recognizing that, their individuality and who they are, man, you couldn't keep them from joining you. But the problem is so many times people are just trying to tell them how great the essentials is and for only $400 down, you can join us. Nobody gives a shit about that. And until you understand that, guys, you're going to have a hard time building this business. You have to understand it's about the humans. It's about what makes people act. And I'm telling you, you're going to set yourself apart and life will be easy. And these are, this isn't about the briefing, the intro, the follow-up, and what do I say on here, and the cash recovery in the video. You got to just change what's inside of your head and your heart. And I swear to you, things are going to start to explode. Things are going to start to explode. Okay? Do I have any more slides? Yes. Okay, I got a couple more. And I'm almost out of time. Don't fake yourself out. Guys, you are exactly where you want to be. Right now, you are where you put yourself. And until you can accept that responsibility, your body, the way you look and the way your jeans fit and the fact that summer's coming up and you may or may not have your, quote, summer body, that is completely based upon the decisions that you've made. Your finances, if you have debt, the amount of that debt, whether you're doing what you want to do every day, that the relationships with your children, with your spouse, every single part of it is based upon your decisions. You put yourself exactly where you are. And you know what? If you are not where you want to be, I guarantee you it's because you didn't have the motivation, you didn't have that dying drive like I did to get out of that hospital and watch that Macy's Thanksgiving Day parade. If you are only giving 50%, or 40 or 30. Let's say you're giving half. You're showing up to the meetings. Maybe you're putting out some marketing. Maybe you're studying the classes. Maybe you're not. But if you're only giving 50%, here's the key. You owe yourself an explanation. You owe it to you, not to me, not to Scott, not to your advisor, your mentor. You owe it to you to figure out, why are you only giving 50%? What's wrong with you? And what's going to change that? Because when you can figure that out and you get tough with yourself, it's a click, it's a switch, and it's going to flip in your head. And I swear to you, it's going to change everything. It's going to change everything about you. You know, guys, you have greatness inside of you. I believe that. It's time to bring it the F out for the world to see. People need to hear your story. They need to hear your story. Everybody has a story. You know you've gone through struggles. People say all the time, Brian, you should write a book. Well, I am writing a book. But you know what the real reality is, guys? You need to write a book. You know what you've overcome. You know the garbage you've been through in your life, and the fact that you're here. You're here. 10% of Scott's organization is on this call. Where the hell are the other 90%? It doesn't matter where they are, because you're here. That's all that matters, guys. That's all that matters. And let me close with this. Vision. You need to have a vision. And this is a quote from Eric Thomas, right? The hip hop preacher. Look him up too. Eric Thomas, E.T. You got to actually go in a room. You got to close the door. You got to see yourself doing it. You got to feel yourself doing it. You got to actually walk in it, guys. You got to go in the future, live it out, come back in the present, and start working towards it. What do you mean, Brian? What is that vision? I don't know. But what is your vision for your life? You're a little unclear about that right now? Let me give you a good one for every one of you on this call. About 90 days from now, we're going to be at the leadership retreat in Mexico. Every single one of you needs to be there. Every single one of you can be there. You need to plant the vision. If you have nothing else, you visualize every day. Please promise me, take 5-10 minutes every day. When you're alone, when you're quiet, before the kids wake up, and you close your eyes and picture yourself in Mexico. Picture us sitting there having a drink together with Scott and Bob Snyder and all the leaders, and how fortunate we are to be with those people. And picture the warm weather, smell the air, smell the salty air from the ocean, man. Feel the sand in your toes. I don't care if you don't have the money. I don't care if you don't know if you can get off work. None of that matters. You plant that vision in your mind, and you do that every day for the next 90 days, and I guarantee you the work and whatever resources that it takes to get there, you'll be there. And I'll see you in Mexico. You guys have a great day.
Ladies and gentlemen, the incomparable Brian Mara. Brian, as always, we are so grateful that you put this together for us and shared your story. I adore you. I can't speak for anybody else, but I'm sure there's a whole bunch of us that share that sentiment. Am I right, guys? Do we want to see Brian come back? I know I'd like to see Brian come back. Yeah, that's what I thought. It's Wednesday. Chase your paper. We'll see you here tomorrow. We've got Gene Powers running the Impact tomorrow, guys. And, turn your dishes towards Adelphia, because greatness is happening all over the East Coast. Brian, thank you so much. Mwah. Guys, have a great day. Keep it classy.